Okay, welcome to a class on questions. Questions are very difficult in English because we need to use auxiliary verbs most of the time when we make questions, but not all of the time. And I will talk to you very soon about when we don't have an auxiliary verb. There's no auxiliary verb in this question. There's no auxiliary verb in this question. There's no auxiliary verb in this question. Auxiliary verbs are do, does, did in present simple and past simple. Yeah, and that's what we're really interested in today. Present simple and past simple. When do we use questions? Yeah, when do we use? Notice I put an auxiliary verb in. Yeah, do. When do we use questions without auxiliary verbs? Now, most of the time we do use auxiliary verbs. Yeah, when do we use auxiliary verbs? Well, look at some of these questions. I've taken these questions from Sherlock Holmes, the Silver Blaze story that you are listening to and following. So you remember the trainer of the horse is John Straker. So we could ask this question: who did John Straker buy a new dress for? And what I want you to notice is that the who, yeah, which I've put in a different colour, the who is actually the object of the preposition for. It's the object. It's not the subject of the answer. It's not the he. It is the object of the answer, which means that this word, who, is not the subject of that sentence. It's the object of that sentence, which is actually why it's more correct to say whom. But I want to warn you that most natives, 99%, never ever use whom when they speak. And so if you don't use whom when you speak, well, you are doing the same as all of us. I never use whom when I speak, or very rarely do I use whom. And it's usually when I am teaching who and whom or something like that. But most of the time I don't use it. And that's why I've just written it like this, which is pretty much acceptable now. I've noticed the schools in the UK all try to use whom at the right time in their communication with parents. But they make lots of other mistakes, but they get this one right. They tend to get this one right. So remember that whom is the object version of who. Who is actually the subject. Yeah, who is actually the subject. Whom is the object. Okay. So if the question word is the object, like in number 1, then we do need auxiliary verbs. We say, who did John Straker buy a new dress for? Yeah, who did he buy a new dress for? He bought a new dress for his girlfriend, okay? And notice it's past simple, past simple. Yeah, usually if somebody asks you a question in past simple, you answer in past simple, usually. Okay, number 2, which horse did Sherlock find in Capleton stables? And again, let's look at the answer. He found Silver Blaze in the Capleton stables. So which horse is the object of this sentence? Again, it's not the subject, yeah? It's the object of the verb found. Object just means, you know, in this first sentence, there are 2 objects. He bought a new dress, that's one object, for his girlfriend, that's the second object. And this is the subject. Subject means the doer of a verb. That's all it means, the one who does the verb. Object means the one that has the verb done to them, yeah? And so a new dress is the object, his girlfriend is the object, Silver Blaze is the object of the verb find, yeah? He found what? He found Silver Blaze. So if the question word is the object, we always need an auxiliary verb, yeah? Which horse did Sherlock find? And do notice that you always have this pattern of question word, auxiliary verb, subject, infinitive. Question word, auxiliary verb, subject, infinitive. Question word, auxiliary verb, subject, infinitive. Always, yeah? And that's the form we must use for asking questions. Okay, so how many horses did they watch in the race? They watched 6 horses. That's the object of watch. And so we need the auxiliary verb did. Yeah, so when the question word is an object, we do need auxiliary verbs do, does and did. And I'm only talking about those auxiliary verbs.